Just as we were grappling with the billion-dollar question, a fresh tempest brewed on the horizon. Our largest client, the golden goose that had catapulted us to recognition, was threatening to walk away. They wanted better terms, more for less, a demand that threatened to erode our margins and sap our resources. The day we received their ultimatum, the office was cloaked in an uneasy silence, the usually vibrant space cast under a shadow of apprehension. The decision before us wasn't simple, the stakes higher than ever. I called a meeting with the client's representatives, hoping to negotiate a middle ground. But the meeting felt less like a negotiation and more like navigating a minefield. "It's a competitive market, Harrison," they said, their words like ice, "you need us as much as we need you." Back at the office, the team watched as I returned, their anxious faces seeking answers. Sarah, her usual effervescent self subdued, looked at me across the sea of cubicles. "How did it go, Harrison?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "It's complicated," I responded, my voice heavy. The room descended into a tense quiet, the hum of computers a dull echo in the background. Jake was the first to break the silence. "We'll figure this out, Harrison," he said, his confidence infectious. "We've weathered storms before." I smiled at him, appreciating his faith. But I knew, as a leader, the responsibility was mine. I had to steer the ship through the storm. It was my decision that would chart our course, leading us either to calm waters or into the eye of the tempest. As the pressure mounted, I found myself searching for counsel, some wisdom that would guide me through the thorny labyrinth of decisions that lay before me. I reached out to my mentors, my past professors, and even my friendly competitors, seeking their insights. One cold evening, I found myself sitting across from my old college professor, Professor Michaels. He had always been a source of guidance, his teaching stretching beyond the confines of textbooks. We met at a small cafe, a quiet corner away from the world's hustle and bustle. Over cups of steaming coffee, I shared my predicament. "Harrison," he said, his voice calm and soothing. "Remember, businesses are not just about balance sheets and profits, but about people. Whatever you decide, ensure it values people as much as it values profits." His words echoed in my mind as I left the cafe, the city lights painting a blur of colors against the twilight. The next day, I met with a longtime rival, the CEO of a competitor tech firm. It was an odd feeling, asking advice from someone I'd often been at loggerheads with. But the times were such, blurring the line between friend and rival. "You know, Harrison," he said, "I admire what you've built. It's your dream, your sweat and blood. Just remember, whatever decision you make, it should be something you can live with." His advice was stark but honest. My conversations continued, with friends, peers, family, each offering their perspective, each a different piece of a complex puzzle. The decision loomed larger, but the varied advice, the shared wisdom, began to shed some light on the path I needed to follow. The day arrived like any other, the morning sunlight streaming into the office, casting long shadows on the floor. But this was no ordinary day. It was decision day, the moment of truth that would shape the future of our company. I woke up early that day, watched the sunrise paint the city in hues of gold and crimson. I stood at my apartment window, a cup of coffee in hand, lost in thoughts, the weight of the impending decision bearing down on me. As I entered the office, I could feel the tension in the air, a potent mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The team was gathered in the open area, their faces a tableau of varying emotions. The board members, clad in crisp suits, stood on one side, their faces masks of stern expectation. I walked up to the makeshift stage, the room falling silent as all eyes turned to me. I looked at them, at the faces that had journeyed with me from the basement to this pivotal moment. Sarah, her eyes filled with concern, Jake, his usual cheerfulness replaced by a serious mien, and Maria, her normally bubbly personality quietened. I could feel the room's collective breath hold as I began to speak. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This decision has not been an easy one. I glanced at the board, then back at my team. My voice echoed in the cavernous room as I finally voiced my decision. The silence that followed was palpable, my words hanging in the air like a suspended note. The seconds ticked by slowly, each one echoing the gravity of the decision I'd just announced. As my decision rang through the room, the silence gave way to a wave of reactions. The board members, their faces masks of concealed surprise, were the first to break the silence. They spoke about potential implications, future prospects, risk mitigation strategies, their voices a low hum in the backdrop of the buzzing office. Among my team, reactions varied. Relief washed over Sarah's face, her hands clenching in what seemed like silent prayer. Jake, always the pillar of strength, let out a sigh, his eyes meeting mine with a nod of approval. Maria smiled, her dimples deepening with her grin, whispering a soft, "Thank you, Harrison." Later, as the office returned to its daily rhythm, Sarah and Jake joined me in my cabin. "I won't lie, Harrison," Sarah started, her voice shaking slightly, "I was scared. But I trust you. We trust you." She extended her hand, and Jake placed his on top, a silent pact reformed. Jake looked at me, his eyes gleaming with a mix of relief and respect. "I knew you'd make the right decision, Harrison. This is why we followed you from the basement to here. We trust in your vision." As I placed my hand on theirs, a quiet understanding passed between us. Yes, we had chosen the road less traveled, a path fraught with challenges and uncertainties. But this was our path, our decision. This was our shared dream. The day ended with a quiet sense of victory, not against any competitor or circumstance, but against our fears and doubts. We had made our decision, and we were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The basement was far behind us, but its spirit was alive, throbbing within the heartbeat of our organization. As I left the office that night, I glanced back at the building. Our building. Our dream. We were not just surviving the tech world, we were on our way to reshape it.